Welcome back to the Simple Idea Podcast. I'm Makai Green, and today I have Sterling Grinnell here with me. Sterling is a photographer and videographer based out of Colorado, and he actually inspired me to start this podcast, so it's definitely a pleasure to have him on. Sterling, how are you today?
How's it going, man? Good to be here.
Yeah, going well, actually. I know we've been trying to get this episode recorded for a while, but like I said, glad to have you on. Would you mind telling the people a little bit more about yourself, whoever's listening?
Yeah, of course. I'm a film director and photographer out in Denver, Colorado. I do that for a living, and I started just about a year ago. Started getting some traction on YouTube and a couple different places, getting published, doing wedding work, and since there, I've just been kind of, taking it in stride and growing as I grow, and just taking time to learn and see how quickly I can move this process along into the end goal.
Awesome. So you mentioned YouTube, so I'm going to get right into the meat and potatoes of this conversation we're going to have today. I found you on Matt Diavella's podcast, The Ground Up Show, something that I watch pretty much regularly. What events led up to you even considering trying to get onto that show? At the time, go ahead. I was say at the time you were a much smaller creator. So what was your headspace trying to tackle, that big of a feat?
Yeah, it wasn't. I can't say that my intention was to tackle that or to get on the podcast originally. Mm-hmm. My intention was, and currently still is, just to learn, and basically whatever project or idea that I want to tackle, that I tackle that with everything that I have, and not just some sort of attempt to be something. So what happened was I was just going through my process of learning and trying to understand new things and what I needed to improve about my video and my films. And sound design had come to mind, and I realized that my sound was really, really lacking in all my video work. So I started messing around with a microphone and a couple different audio setups. And with one of them, I noticed that I kind of sounded like I narrated a clip just so I could see how I would overlay sound and what mess around with the dynamics of it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. It sounds like Matt Diavella, because I don't know, I just had a style in my head. And then I was like, oh, it'd be really funny to do a parody video of my own house and just play around a little more with this audio and see what I can make it sound like. Well, I got halfway into the project. I was just really inspired by it randomly, and I wanted to film everything identically to how he did it. And at the same time, I wanted to point out what I was doing to not make fun of him. Oh yeah, make fun of him even. But to parody his films, hey, here's the things you have to do, and then do that in the films. And I was just kind of enjoying it. And then I finished the video and I was like, oh, this is funny. It's pretty cool. And then that's when it clicked with me that I was like, oh, what am I going to do with this video? And I was like, oh, I should put this on Instagram. I had a pretty good following on Instagram then, and not anything crazy, but enough to make a little bit of splash. So I posted on there, and I just started running that hashtag, Get Sterling on Matt's podcast. And Matt was just super impressed with the video and had a slot open. So I flew out to LA and jumped on the podcast.
Oh, all right. That's actually a pretty interesting story. So it wasn't intentional is what you're saying. It kind of just happened out of just a sequence of events that happened to happen, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it is, you kind of set yourself up for a better chance of success, right, in life, whatever that is. So there are a lot of events that led up to it. And I wouldn't say that my goal was to get on Matt Diavella's podcast necessarily. That wasn't the end goal. But it was something that I had wanted to do. And so I was keeping that in the back of my mind when an opportunity came up. Because had I not even thought of that possibility, I would have just posted the video and left it at that. But it also comes into learning how to leverage and finding out how to leverage people that are, and not in a negative way, but hey, what's important to people? How can I leverage my skill set? How can I earn more money? All those kind of things. If you're intentional about all of that, then you get a lot more out of it than if you're unintentional. And had I been unintentional about my approach to film, then none of this would have happened, and I would still probably be pretty close to the same place I was a year ago.
Okay, I see. So I could be wrong. The narrative is a little bit different than what I thought it was before. But from what I remember, I think Matt notes your persistence at some point, and that's what kind of got his attention. Have you always been someone? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you're good. I think there's a little bit of audio delay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, have you always been someone that's been able to see what you want and kind of go for it, despite the odds of whatever that might be? Is your drive natural? Was it learned? And like you said, your original intent wasn't to get on the podcast.
Yeah.
But you ended up on it.
Yeah, my original intent with that film wasn't to get on the podcast. I had emailed him like 6 months prior when I was just starting film. Like it was like the second day I posted a YouTube video ever. And I had written him an email. I don't even know. I still can't remember. I try to remember how I came across this podcast even. But I wrote him an email and I tried to jump on his podcast. And that was when I was very, very young in creation. And 6 months later, I had like speed learned because I focused so hard, and he allowed me to come on. So it's kind of been natural, to be honest. I'm not sure why. It's something that I feel very, very lucky to have as a natural drive for all that stuff. I'm somewhat of a workaholic, but to me, it doesn't feel that way because I'm just naturally driven to work. However, I think naturally driven to learn and having the ability to learn is the real key. And that if anyone figures that out, all it takes is a little bit of learning how you learn and then basically leveraging that to just grow in whatever area. So some learned and some just instilled in me from I have no idea what.
Yeah, I imagine you have some influences in your life that might have kind of added on to you being how you are. Is that fair to say at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's not necessarily people, but events. I would say more or
more so events.
Lessons learned from events where I can kind of see the benefit of persistence or the benefit or the I'm losing my train of thought. The benefit of persistence.
Okay. Yeah, because what I wanted to say before adding on to that initial question was like getting onto that podcast is something that the average person would never imagine possible. So for me, for example, the idea of even starting a podcast, like it's a very simple idea, but most people have these ideas and they don't really, act on them. Like everyone's an idea person until it comes to actually implementing that idea. Right. So just seeing you, come up with this idea for a video, kind of just put it out there. Most people don't even have the ability to do that, but to let alone get on the podcast, that's what makes your story or your narrative as interesting as it is to me. Like I said, the average person is not put into that position.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that too is trusting yourself to be able to like take the time to learn. I know it sounds like a weird way to put it, but a lot of people, like you said, they have the ideas. Plenty of people have ideas. Most people even know how to run a budget, but most people don't actually do it. There's a big disconnect between what people know and what they apply. And I think that's one of the biggest factors in life. Like everyone knows that they should work out and exercise for better health, but that doesn't mean that everyone does it. So that gap between knowledge and application tends to be where people fall off. But if you can stick with that, if you stick with that application side, then you make huge leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else, and not necessarily a monetary jump ahead or a social status jump ahead, but a jump ahead to what your maximum potential is the way I view it.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, this leads me into my next question. So still kind of talking about persistence here, but what advice do you give to someone our age, at least, in regards to the idea of persistence? How do we come to, close to mastering this at moments when it matters? So, for example, like our own little passion projects or just personal growth, maybe an amazing job opportunity, whatever it is. What is your take on persistence? When is it necessary? When is it not? If you were to talk to someone.
Yeah, I would say always necessary. Not necessarily persistence, but at least a full-on attempt at something, because I see people do this a lot where they think that they love, take snowboarding, for example. They're like, yeah, I want to snowboard for the rest of my life. That's all I want to do. And then they say, I'm going to try it in like 2 years. And they take forever. They don't actually go do it. Well, then they get 2 years in, they go and try it, and they find out that they don't like it at all. Well, it took them 2 years to figure that out because they didn't just do it from the start. If they had just gone from the start and been like, all right, I think I want to do this, and jumped on it and started snowboarding from that day forward, then they might have gone through 20 or 30 really like different ideas to get to what they really want to be doing and like an end passion. So to me, I don't see the point in elongating any sort of process, whether that be a thought process or an active process in learning or in a field you want to be in. Like if you want to do something and you think you want to do something, the best way to find out is to jump in and try it. And if you put it off by a year, you're just elongating what you're already going to learn. You may as well take a shot, learn it. Because most of the time, one thing that I've learned is that as I get older, my passions consistently change, especially from, what I was wanting to do at 10-year-old and what I'm doing now. And even from the last year, what I thought I wanted to do with film and what I realized I actually want to do with film. So as I discovered that, I think I have a sort of running passion that's just to follow my passion or that kind of thing. And with that thought process, I think anyone's persistence, like if you find the thing that you're super passionate about, you just know, and you can't shut it off. It's just the way it is. People know when you talk about it, when you talk about it. So just keep running until you find that thing. And if you think you found it, jump in, go for it, find it if you really did. And that way, if you didn't, you can get right back out of that pool and jump in the next one.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. So basically it's, I guess, fail as fast as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fail fast. Yep. Fail fast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Cause, yeah, I mean, everyone's constantly struggling with this, and like for me as well. I mean, 5-10 years ago, obviously, like something else is, compared to now, at least. Like maybe when I was 15 or 16, I wanted to be a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
You fast forward 2 or 3 years from now, I want to make YouTube videos, or 3 or 4 years from then, it's always changing. But I'm only figuring that out because I'm continuing to go through these different events and learning, okay, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really beneficial.
All right, for sure. So, not my last question, but it kind of leads me into something else here.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your biggest obstacle in terms of your own personal growth and in your work, maybe? So, my other question on top of that, I guess, is what mindset do you keep when dealing with these obstacles, assuming you have them?
Yeah, my biggest obstacle is probably my lack of time management skills, because I'm just naturally bad at that. Other than that, as far as like obstacles, I don't think I've ever had any that I felt like I couldn't overcome. And that can be a negative thing for sure, but so far it hasn't been. For me, I just haven't encountered something that's made me stop. And I think if I had encountered something that's made me stop, then I would have moved on to something else, and it probably wouldn't have been my passion or my thing that I just feel like I want to do. So yeah, all the obstacles you run into are you just move around them. You get creative and you find a way around them. I think before, when I was first starting film and wanting to do this, I had to work 2 part-time jobs while still scaling my own business that I was trying to run. And it's a lot of work. But when you love something like that, they honestly don't feel like obstacles. It's a weird feeling of, it's just like, it is the grind, but it doesn't feel like it because it's awesome, because you're just so passionate about what it is. Obstacles end up being something that's almost fun. It's something new for you to approach, and it adds a different dynamic. And with the fail fast mentality, an obstacle is just a learning block. So if you are really bad at driving downtown and an obstacle comes up where you get a job and have to drive downtown, then that's awesome. You're going to be really good at driving downtown. You'll never have to worry about it again in your life. So for me, that's what an obstacle is. You just sprint at them, and it's like, sweet, what is this one going to teach me? I've had a couple where, you can go overboard, but that's how I approach risk analysis as well, And sometimes it goes too far. I'm trying to figure out where the drone laws are, and, I end up getting a fine, and I've learned my lesson. Okay, and that's all it took. One lesson. Now I'm aware, and I never make this mistake again. Totally fine. So that's kind of my mentality with it, with obstacles. So they're just a really good learning process. And when you approach them like that, they don't feel negative, and business doesn't feel like it's failing and going, crazy, because you just find a way around it.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying there. Yeah, especially like when you have that passion project or whatever it is that you're invested in. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to look at as something that's, an obstacle. Like you said, it's something that you learn from. It helps build you or whatever you're doing into something bigger and better than what it was before.
Right.
So that's fair to say. And I guess that's a perspective that most people wouldn't really take on that. Because when I formed that question, I don't know. That's not the response I would have expected, but it's something that after hearing it, makes total sense to me.
I think another part of that is and I'm considering running this as the next YouTube series and talking about this a little more, but I'm definitely an optimist. And I think there's huge benefits to that as far as self-will and potential to complete. I think that optimism is just super underrated, and training yourself to be an optimist about stuff so that so that you actually push to the next level and don't quit early. And there is a balance, and definitely there is a time to quit, and you need to be aware of that as well. But at the same time, that optimistic mindset really helps you push a little bit further than, the average person.
Yeah, I mean, once you start approaching basically anything with a negative attitude, usually things don't tend to work out as well as you would want them to.
Exactly.
So definitely being optimistic when you approach anything is, I would say, key to most things, really.
Yeah.
But awesome response. That really just, that question kind of seems dumb now that I think about it. But
yeah,
the response is a really good one.
I think that's a key thing that a lot of people our age don't ever pick up on. It's so easy to run away from the trials and run away from, I don't want to say trial like a life trial, but like the obstacles in life for business or for whatever you want to do. Like, if you learn to be the one kid in the crowd that runs at them, then you're basically scaling and everyone else is learning to run away from problems while you tackle them. It is a huge mindset advantage.
Yeah, well, that's the issue with most people to begin with, is that when things seem to get difficult, it's easier to give up than it is to stick something out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think it comes back to that. Just like the whole, everybody's an idea person until it comes to, performing that grind.
Yep.
It's the same concept. It is. Would you rather take something easy or something difficult? Most people want the easy way out. Mm-hmm. So, no, totally get it. But so these are a little bit of a change of pace, I guess you could say, but I have some quick questions for you. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of dealing with what you do now. But if you weren't so heavily invested in your current craft with filmmaking, what do you think you would be doing?
I don't know, dude. That's a hard one. I can't, because of my love for this industry right now, it's hard to picture anything. I guess I would I'd probably jump back in the coffee industry and competition and competing there and see how far I could run that.
Okay. Fair. If it was completely stripped from me, I was curious because you seem to be very passionate about it, and I can see I've been following your growth for the past year or so. So it was just something what would he be doing if he wasn't doing this? Because
I'd probably
from an outliers. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say I'd probably end up just being in the coffee industry. It's an industry I like, although I would probably not be a barista for too long. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I did enjoy competition.
Okay, fair. Another question here. Mm-hmm. Pancakes or French toast, and then why?
Oh my gosh, dude, that's a hard one. I got to French toast.
Easy question. French toast. Oh,
okay, here's the thing, dude. Pancake does not compare in texture. That's a soft, squishy boy. Nowhere does that thing have texture. You get the right French toast, you get a textured edge, and you get a soft middle. It's the best of both worlds.
Okay, as long as you have reasoning behind it, because I've asked people this question on several occasions, and it's just French toast without any explanation. The fact that you're able to provide me an explanation, I can't be too upset with it. But personally, I'm a pancake person.
I'm a big texture guy, so I love that on French toast, man. All about it.
No, listen, I get it. I'm not going to argue with you.
Fair enough.
But, all right, so 2 more things for you here. Who is your favorite creator, if you have one? And it can be anyone. It doesn't have to be just YouTube. It could be some random artist from Belgium, if that's who you're interested in.
My favorite creator.
Yeah, who do you pull inspiration from the most? I guess I should ask you.
I pull. Oh, that's hard to pick. I think I pull inspiration almost always from music. It's like everything to me, and I'm not a huge I'm not oh yeah, I know all the secret artists that no one knows about. But what I do find is that pushes everything through my film. So in that light, the most creatively inspiring. Dude, I don't think I could ever narrow it down to one. The people that inspire me to create
very difficult.
Are people who are it's a group of people who are passionate about what they do and let me rephrase that, are unapologetically passionate about whatever it is they do. That's the most inspiring thing to me. I don't think I can narrow it down. And so when I find those people in whatever industry they are, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's filmmaking, those are the people that make me want to push whatever it is that's my craft a little bit.
Okay, because you kind of, I see what you're saying. You pull inspiration from what's the correct word to use in this?
Like a work ethic, you could say almost, or a passion, like from a genuineness. I think that's really what it is, an authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed personally that some of my favorite creators aren't people with hundreds of thousands or even millions of subscribers. I've come across, and this is just speaking in terms of YouTube, but I found a few creators who have maybe 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers, but you can tell that their full passion is invested into some of these videos that they're making, and they're telling stories about their own lives. Yeah. And granted, some of these videos might only have 800 to 6,000 views, but they're wholesome, they're genuine, they're real authentic, like you said.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
that's totally true.
Yeah, just wanted to throw that in there as like a little side note. Yeah. So last question. I have yet to ask any other guests this, but I want to start now because I'm curious to see what other people are reading. So first off, do you read books at all?
Yeah, I do. I'm starting to get, growing up, no, didn't like books. I was classic high schooler. All I wanted to do was run around and kick a soccer ball. But
yeah, that's everyone.
I've started to realize the benefits of books. So yes, now I do within the last 6 months. Before that, no.
Okay. Yeah, I started about maybe my freshman year of college. So I'm a senior now. Yeah. So about 3 years ago, I started really getting into it.
There you go.
Oh, go again?
I said, well, then you're ahead of me. That's good.
Well, yeah. But I mean, as long as you're starting, that's all that matters at the end of the day. But I want to ask you, in recent memory, what's the best book that you have read, and what's a book that you'd recommend to somebody else at this point in time?
Well, I read a lot of books that are specific to my needs right now. Since I'm building a business, I have a lot to learn about tax and budgeting and accounting for small business and LLCs. So I've been reading some really boring books on that kind of stuff. But generic book.
Well, even if it's not a generic book, like maybe somebody who's listening, they're also in the same position as you, and that book might be beneficial.
Yeah.
Whatever you're able to pull, valuable information from, if that's a book that you feel the need to share.
Yeah.
Totally okay with me.
I really like the book, Start With Why. It's a little, after a while, the book's a little repetitive, but the concept in the book is really, really amazing. And I think that's what fuels the people that we talked about with, that are doing their real passions, starting with why. Some people want to be a photographer or a travel person because it looks cool and because of the social status. Most of the time, those people don't make it because the amount of work it takes you to get there can only be driven by passion. So I think starting with why, and that's something that I consistently preach basically on YouTube, is like, if photography is not your passion, that's not bad. Like, go just actually find your actual passion and do that. Because there's so many people that get stuck trying to be something that they don't really want to be. So starting with why talks about that concept and the basis of your track in life, and basically figuring out what's the reason for that and is it valid.
Okay, awesome. I've heard of that book before, but I don't have it in my current library, so I'll definitely pick it up.
Yeah, it's a short read.
Give it a read. Oh, short read.
Yeah.
Even better. I can run through that in hopefully a week or so.
Yeah.
But no, I'll definitely check it out. Thanks for sharing that book with me, because like I said, I'm always reading books and looking to further my knowledge. As of now, I'm most of the books I read are kind of just personal development books, and here and there a few business-related books. Mm-hmm. Like with my podcast, at least, that's like my main passion project at the moment, and I'm not necessarily looking to monetize it. Yeah. More so right now, it's just kind of have like, genuine conversation with other people like you, even random people off the streets, really.
Yeah, totally.
So the business aspect, not so much, but just the personal development side of it, really. But yeah, no doubt. But thanks, Sterling. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, it's been a minute to get you on here, but it's been a pretty good conversation. Is there anything that you want to link? Any new videos coming out, merch? Anything you want people to know about?
Yeah. I haven't done merch yet, but maybe I should look into that one of these days.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I'll cop a t-shirt.
I'm always doing YouTube. I'm really trying to get two videos a week right now. It's a lot of work for me as I'm just starting that out. But if you're looking to grow in this area, I have Patreon. That's something that I'm pushing hard right now to be able to continue. So you can find me on Patreon. It's just Sterling Grinnell, and anywhere else you want to find me is the exact same thing, just my first name and last name.
All right, awesome. Like I said before, thanks, Sterling, for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing some time with me. And I wish you the best on all your future projects. I'll be watching from the side.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. All right, take care.
You too.